Welcome, everybody, to the Outsource Advantage. I'm your host, Eric Kissos, and today we have Alex Guttman from Ace Janitorial and the founder of Medama, a floor care product that I'm really excited for us to talk about today, as well as just get to know Alex a little better and talk about the things he's doing out there in the industry. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Derek. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Can you introduce yourself by giving a little bit more of your background and how you found your way to founding and creating Medama?
Sure. I'm in this business around 35 years. I started when I was 6 years old, so that makes me 41, right? Actually, I'm lying. I'm only 42, but so
Yeah.
when I started in this business, it's a family-run business. My father was the founder of the business in the 70s, but it
Oh,
was a surgical supply business. It was not anything close to what we're doing today. And we were in healthcare, primarily healthcare. I was selling, when I came in from college, my background was chemistry, organic chemistry. In fact, I had a professor who, when I was taking organic chemistry, the entire class was medical students, and they were all like getting C's and B's. I think I was the only A he ever gave. And he wrote in the back of my book, my textbook, I'm giving you this A on one condition, that you become a doctor. Hopefully he's dead during this podcast. So the coming into the industry from that chemistry love of chemistry. Unfortunately, the business that we were in, maybe fortunately or unfortunately, you can look at it either way. We were involved in medical supplies, mostly packs and gowns, sutures, alcohol preps. I was in the OR selling surgical instruments. I was training doctors on arthroscopic surgery and laparoscopic surgery. And it was a very, very competitive field. The pharmaceutical companies were out there. We had companies like Baxter, Owens & Minor, Calgo, which if anyone in our industry, it rings a bell with them. But they were massive companies, and I was this little, pisser. And these guys are billionaire, companies, billions and billions. And so there was really no chance for me to compete. One day I ran into a sales rep around my age, and he was selling a very unique soap in those days. It was the first soap that was foam.
oh,
And
okay.
so it was, in those days, foam soap was unheard of. It was before
Right.
Gojo was Gojo. And it was before we still had horses and wagons going in the street. So, and the salesman says to me, and he was my age, and I said, it's a really tough business here, to make a living. And how do you do it? He goes, making a living. I'm doing phenomenal. I go, really? What makes you so unique? He goes, well, if you pump the hand soap with the liquid, you get, X amount, 1,000 pumps, per pouch. And when I pump the foam, I get 2,000 to 3,000 pumps, and it makes less of a mess. And my customers are paying twice the price, but I'm saving them money and trouble. And a little switch went off in my brain. I said, I'm in the wrong business. I'm selling commodities, even though it's a surgical, it's unique in its way. But we got to really get into something that is unique and time saving and beneficial to the customer. And at the end of the day, and I repeat this all the time to my sales team and to fellow friends of mine in our industry, there's only so much you can save a guy on a roll of toilet paper. I mean, at a
Right.
certain point, that toilet paper hits cost.
Yep.
And so the goal would be not to get rid of the toilet paper, but maybe, or not to lower the price on the toilet paper, but maybe to find a way that we use less toilet paper without people walking around funny. So, it would be really advantageous to our industry, the healthcare industry, if I could do something that saves on overall cost.
Right.
And so, sort of by accident, I ran into a director of housekeeping. This is going back again 30 years ago at Beth Israel Medical Center in New York City, which no longer exists. It was bought out and then by Mount Sinai, and it no longer exists, sadly. A lot of fond memories there. And, the director at the time had told me, Alex, my biggest challenge is when I strip floors or I put wax down on floors, the smell is just horrendous. And nursing complains, and this is in the old days when ammonia was used a lot of
Right.
times. And so my first product that I developed was a product very simple. Well, not so simple, but simple. Was a product that smelled like bubble gum. It was a floor finish that smelled like bubble gum. And the reason why it was bubble gum was it's the only scent that in those days, floor finish did not break down. So they
Oh,
would put down
huh.
this floor finish, and the room would smell like bubble gum for weeks later. And it took off like crazy. And
Probably
uh,
especially in children's hospitals.
yeah, in children's hospitals, I went from zero to thousands and thousands of gallons a month. And I said, hey, this is a business. This is where I can really contribute to the industry. And so what I started to do is really become in servitude is the word I use. Like the Bob Dylan song that everyone's a
Yep.
slave. So that's really what I did is I made myself a slave to the customer, and I said, look, give me your problems, give me your headaches, and let me come up with solutions. And I focused in on that and created a program called Medama. Medama was a brand name, and ironically, the first headache that my customers had, and this again was before. Now there's 1,000 solutions for terrazzo out there in marble,
Right.
but unless you were a casino or you were a marble polishing company or fabricator, there was no way to polish terrazzo in hospitals. And I developed a terrazzo polishing program. I imported the diamonds from overseas. I made my own chemistry here. And we developed a marble polishing program, which eventually I was actually supplying the casinos in Vegas through a distributor named Unisource, who no longer exists either, who was bought out. It's very depressing when all the
There's a
people I
trend here,
know,
Alex.
there's a
Yeah.
trend, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to worry. Derek, what are you doing after this podcast?
Well, not hanging out with you, Alex, that's for sure.
Well, apparently not. So, anyway, so I was supplying the casinos in Vegas. So I went from hospitals to also hospitality, which was a really interesting education for me to learn about how the hospitality industry works. And it sort of brought me back to healthcare because today in healthcare we're so in tune with hospitality with our customers. To make a short story long, Medama became a brand name that is very unique, very different. I like to say we're like the Tesla of the industry, though Tesla is not as advanced as we are. And I think that we really bring something to the table where instead of focusing in on the product itself, we sell systems, programs, and we look at saving the industry on the actual most expensive part of the industry, which is the operations. How do we make operations more efficient? How do we reinvent operations? How do we make operations? And when I say operations, I'm not only talking about the chemistry when it comes to floor care, but during this podcast, I'll talk to you about some of the innovations that we're doing and how we're affecting HCAPs and also HAIs. So we're looking at healthcare not as a floor care. We're not a floor care company that makes floor care products. We're a company that looks at innovation, and that's where Medama uh, really comes to the table.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I couldn't have asked you to do a better intro for that. Really covering things. And it's interesting that, you started in hospitals, which is a 24/7 operation. And then you moved to casinos, which is also a 24/7 operation. And,
Right.
and also areas where it's difficult to lay down floor care chemicals and run a floor care program, right? Because there's never that closed business time like you get in an airport or a big box store.
No, that's a great point. It's funny because I always say, my wife is German, and every time I say it's funny, she goes, "What's so funny about it?" I said, "It doesn't mean literally funny, but it means ironic." So the it's interesting because you're right. I mean, it's very similar. The only difference I would say that, a major difference that I would say between a casino and a hospital is that, you know, a casino, maybe, we're talking about AI today in the industry and
Yeah.
how AI is going to take over everything. There's one thing that AI will never be able to take over, and that is the interaction between a patient and an EVS frontline worker. And I just
Right.
had a conversation about this with New York Presbyterian. I was doing a training there the beginning of the week, and I had a bunch of EVS professionals in the room. And I said, all of us here every day walk into rooms, clean the rooms, disinfect the rooms, and interact with the patients. What we don't realize, and what we should realize, and maybe it's in the back of our mind, is that we're going to be the patient one day. And we're going to be looking at the housekeeping person coming in to clean our room and take care of us. And we're going to want them to do something that they want from us to do to them now. And that is something AI can't do because it requires empathy, it requires sympathy. So, if one of us had a relative in a hospital, and most of us do, and most of us are mortal. I like to think I'm not, but most of us do have mortality in our name, in our existence. And so I think we all know we're going to end up in a hospital one day. And so the way we treat the patients is something very special because it gives us the opportunity to really direct the industry. So when we're there, we get what we expect from the service staff. So I think that's something that's very unique about healthcare. And the other thing is we're saving lives, which is something where we make a living and we're able to save lives at the same time. So what we're doing, all of us, is really powerful because we could have done housekeeping in a casino, like you pointed out, or done housekeeping in a hotel, and instead we're picking healthcare to really make a difference, which is really saving lives. So it's
Yeah,
very important.
that's a great point. You touched on something which was you're an innovation company as you view yourselves with things like Madama. For people who aren't aware of what Madama kind of separates itself and how it separates itself in the industry, I know a little bit about it, but could you kind of tell the audience what separates Madama first from a actual floor care product side? Not the process, the systems, the project behind getting it down, but really from the. Now, I'm not asking you to get into chemical compositions, obviously,
Right. Right.
but what really sets Madama apart from an actual floor care product?
Well, if my competition's listening at this point, please turn off the podcast. So, well, the to start, Madama means imagination. That's where the word comes from. It's I'm a Miami-Dean. I'm a rationalist, by trade. My friends always think I'm a little bit too rational, but I don't think that's rationally speaking. I don't think there's something called too rational. But the
There's a phrase I use that my wife always gets a kick out of every time I say, which is kind of the opposite of what you're saying. And I said, don't apply rational thought to irrational people. So I'm glad at least you're a rational person.
right there you go. Exactly. The problem is to define irrational, you have to be rational.
Yeah. We could go down a rabbit hole on this topic for
Yeah,
probably the next couple hours.
right, exactly. So the word Madama means imagination, and so we use imagination to imagination can be used for evil and it can be used for good, and we hope we're doing good here by reinventing the way housekeeping does things. So or EVS, environmental services. One of the things, if you look at our industry today, it was, there's 100 companies making a floor finish, 100 companies making cleaning chemicals. I remember when I first got into the industry, I used to go to shows overseas and in the US, and I'd walk by booths and companies would say, hey, look at the labeling of our product. We can make incredible labels for your products. And I used to say, well, wait a minute, who cares about the freaking label? And they used to say to me, well, it's all packaging. Like, if you go to a retail store, you pick up a bottle, take a look at the packaging. It's amazing. And I go, well, it didn't turn me on at all. And I couldn't figure it out. It was almost like they were talking Chinese to me. And looking at the industry, where people put down floor finish. It was all different floor finishes, different shines, some much higher shine, some a little lower shine, some a little faster dry time, a little slower dry time. Each cleaning chemical had a different smell to it. Some people like that smell, some people don't like that smell. And, it was really an industry which is all the same. It's almost like cars, like everyone's driving the same car. And then Tesla comes out and goes, hey, I got an electric vehicle. Why don't we do this without gas? I'm going to come back to this analogy to Tesla in our
Love it.
discussion. Hope you don't mind, and I hope I don't
Nope.
get sued by Tesla at the end of this conversation.
We don't have it. We don't have enough listeners yet for
Okay,
anyone to jump on any trademark lawyers.
that's right. Elon Musk, turn off the podcast.
That's right.
The thing that I realized was no one's looking at the process. In a hospital, the things that disturb the operation of a taking care of a patient is stripping floors, putting down coating. You have odor, you have slippery floors. When you burnish the floors, which is a high-speed machine that they use to polish the finish to a shine, you're creating dust. And so that dust ends up on high point surfaces, ends up in the air, people breathe it in. And all these things are taking place in an environment where this stuff is the enemy. So I said to myself, we got to do things better. There's got to be a better way to make this thing work in healthcare. And so we designed coatings that are not required to be burnished as often. We designed coatings that are not designed to be stripped. Now, the problem was when I wasn't the only guy who came up with this idea about coatings that don't strip, but when other companies tried to do this, it was, never strip, ever. In other words, take your jackhammer and try to take that thing off. You're taking the floor off with the coating. And that's also not practical, because the reality is that there are going to be times when you're going to have to strip and you want to be able to remove it. But the goal is long-term to remove those coatings, to keep those coatings on the floor for as long as possible with the least amount of labor involved in maintaining those coatings. And so we came up with a program that involves coatings and cleaners married together. And of course, you have different kinds of flooring. You have terrazzo, you have Nora rubber flooring, you have marmoleum. So we created a program that sort of goes universally across most of the flooring, so make it very simple. And then we decided that it's not enough to create a program of products, but we have to really have a training team, a program where support goes behind it. So coming back to the Tesla analogy, my first time I was renting a Tesla, which was around a year ago. I got into a Hertz in California. And the guy says, you got to get into a Tesla and use a Tesla. We'll give it to you at the same rate, and you don't have to fill it up with gas. I said, well, where am I going to charge this thing? And he goes, well, everyone's got chargers. Your hotel's got chargers. You're going to be able to charge this no problem. Well, to make a long story short, the problem started as soon as I got into the car. And I couldn't figure out how to turn the stupid thing on. I mean, I was looking for the key holder to turn, and the thing wasn't going on. So I went back to the counter, and they had to send somebody into the car to explain to me that you put the key near the dashboard. And then they said to me, Alex, you look like you're not exactly the brightest cookie in the jar when it comes to driving this car. So just talk to it, press this button and talk to it. So the entire time I'm talking to the car as I'm driving, I said, this is the biggest hell I've ever been through in my entire life. I'm actually talking to the car like a moron. And then I'm trying to find chargers, and no one has a charger. So, my hotel says, oh, no, we don't have chargers. Maybe go check the parking. Half my trip was trying to find chargers for this thing, which I couldn't find. Returned the car at the end, which was practically dead. And then Hertz charges me for bringing the car back completely dead. So I said, never again. But what was the message of this is that Tesla may be a phenomenal car, and apparently it's doing very well, but they need to provide better training. And so just because I have Medama, which is such a great program, I really do believe it's the best program out there, non-biased opinion. And it's really great, but you need to have the training. So we put together a training team that goes with our products, and it applies not only to Medama Floor Care, but all our products, where we follow behind the customer. We make sure that they understand how the program works. If there's issues or challenges, rather than coming to me and saying, hey, Alex, this is not working, or we're having a problem with this, I like my tech to be at the location to work with the customer to overcome those challenges. Now, of course, we still get, hey, we're having an issue here, an issue there, but then we're able to go ahead and send our training team in. So we're really focusing on building that training team to make sure, and I like to call them an education team versus a training team,
Right.
to really, bring to the table, what it is that we can do and transform when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I had a robotics company on here a couple podcasts ago, and it's the same thing with robotics, right? Anytime you innovate or you have something net new out there that people don't know how to use, it's interesting how many people don't provide that level of training and service. On that one, I was talking about no matter when I round a hospital that's not one of ours, I always see either a robot or a UV disinfection unit just sitting in a closet somewhere. And I'm like, all they needed to do is provide not only initial training, but keep making that wheel spinning with refresher training, and it just doesn't happen. But I know you guys do that firsthand. One of the things that I really like about your organization is, our company uses your product, but you're always out. Your teams and your techs are always out making sure we're doing it the right way. When there is an issue, we give you guys a call and you're there the next day. And what's really interesting is how that dedication to a service, right? Not just a product. And that's something that's been absolutely wonderful for me, seeing in our operations.
Yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal because what I look at it as, Eric, is we're no longer a customer supplier relationship. We're partners. We when I go into a hospital today with your teams or any of my customers, I like to look at us as holding your hand. You're holding my hand by telling me what your challenges are, and together we walk into the sunset. The sunset being the welfare of the patient. That's the most important thing, is to make sure that the patient is the one who benefits at the end of the day. So if we don't burnish as often, we have nice, beautiful floors, and we are not disturbing the environment. I think that we both win, and the customer wins, which is, at the end of the day, the most important part of the story here: the patient and the family of the patient that are going through hell by being in a hospital. So I think one of the things, talk about innovation. One of the products that we came up with, there was a friend of mine who developed a product called the Bramp, and it's a ramp that you can put over a wet floor or stripper or floor finish that's drying. And so until now, you have nurses running in to take care of a patient's coding, God forbid, or something serious is going on, and they're slipping and sliding through the floor finish. The housekeeper's, cursing under his breath, "Oh my God, I got to do this again." And, the nurse and patient is sliding into the patient because of all that water or stripper or whatever is on the floor. So, I bought this company, the Bramp, and now when we put our floor care program together, we drop these Bramps over wet floors. It's a bridge over troubled waters, and customers can get in and out. Nursing can get in and out. Small things like that, that no one would ever think of. To me, it's a wonderful innovation. To me, if any way I can make that life of the patient better, we all win. Your company wins, I win, and I always say, if the director of housekeeping, or EBS, VP, the contracting company wins, then I'm the winner at the end of the day. Not because of the sale, but because we just achieved a team effort, a team goal that we all accomplished together.
That's great. I think I'm batting 100 or 1,000 using this reference, but it's the proverbial Michael Scott win win win, right? From
Right.
from The Office. I think I've used that now on all of our podcasts. So,
He's my role
uh,
model for the business.
it's the best way to manage. I
Thanks.
just finished his book. Somehow I manage.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. You mentioned something about the environment, but I think you were talking about the environment of the facility. Pivoting on that word though is, how important is sustainability to your mission, and how are you incorporated that? Kind of the turn to green, sustainable products, et cetera. How do you look at that into what you're doing in your products and practices?
No interest at all. We just want to be as toxic as possible. That's what makes us unique.
It's the best cleaner, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
kills
That's
everything.
what it is. It kills everything. It's it's very, very important today. And especially coming back to healthcare, you can have and this, I always have this discussion with people who are very focused on green. I said, cyanide is very environmentally friendly, but you do not want to be cleaning a hospital with cyanide.
Right.
So it's green can be a very broad definition. What exactly is green? All our products are green. Our coatings don't have zinc in it. Our cleaners are all safe from an environmental point of view, but more importantly, it's safe to the patients. So I'm going to use this as a intro to something I think is mind-boggling from an innovation point of view. I'm going to introduce it here for the first time on the first podcast ever.
Perfect.
Get ready, Derek.
My producer Will is going to be so happy. He's like, "This is what we've been waiting for
This is a
our
breaking
entire
news.
lives." That's
Exactly.
right. Breaking news.
Right. So, when it comes to, and I just had this discussion with one of my customers this week again, it comes to disinfecting. And again, shows how Medama is really broadening out its arm when it comes to innovation and where we want to be involved with our partners. Disinfecting today, you have a million products out there, and most of them not only kill the germs, but they kill the user and they kill the patient at the same time. I mean, if you have a patient that's vented, we're going after C. diff and Candida, which are, for the listeners who don't know what that is, those are organisms in healthcare that are immune to most antibiotics, if not all, and they're starting to become more proficient and more common in healthcare, especially in the Northeast. We have Candida auris. There's different Candida aurises, but the one in the healthcare, which is resistant, pretty bad stuff. It's a fungus. We've been throwing all these chemistries, and now after COVID, everyone now is aware of the dangers of what these organisms can do. And we bought a company a year ago, based out of South Carolina, that makes a generator that's installed in hospitals. Now, the reason why I bought the company, we were the biggest customer of theirs, and they were focusing in the oil industry, and we were focused in healthcare.
Sure.
So we bought that company's technology, and we started installing these generators in hospitals that make something called hypochlorous acid. HLCl is a symbol: hydrogen, oxygen, and chlorine. It's a chlorine-based product. But unlike a chlorine, won't damage your clothing, won't damage your eyes. If you drink it, non-toxic. Mop the floors with it, spray it in the air, breathe it in, whatever you want to do with it. In fact, our white blood cells, when they attack a bacteria and virus, they produce something called T cells. And the T cells surround the bacteria and virus, and they take out guns loaded with bullets, and the bullet is hypochlorous acid. So I always tell someone, if you're allergic to hypochlorous acid, you're probably dead, because at that point, there's no way of fighting off, your bacteria and viruses. So these machines are installed. We lease them to hospitals, and they produce hundreds and hundreds of gallons a day of disinfectant that kills C. diff and Candida, EPA approved.
Wow.
And what's beautiful about it is, again, we're able to go in and become environmentally friendly, green, real green, because now we're safe for the patients, we're safe for the staff, and we're safe for all surfaces that we're cleaning and mopping. And, here's again where we have an infection control nurse that works for us, that we send out, that we educate the frontline staff on how to use the product. We work with nursing to see how nursing works with the product and train them. And all this is included. We don't charge for any of our training or education.
Right.
It's all part of the program, because again, this is where Medama is different than everyone else. And we're not just a floor care chemistry company. We're going after bacteria and viruses. We're going after improving your HCAPs and lowering your HAIs.
Right.
And so this machine is an innovation that I think is going to transform our industry in the next 2 or 3 years. We had supply chain issues, during COVID. People couldn't get bleach, couldn't get quartz. Now you're making on site unlimited amount of a disinfectant that you can use to kill everything that's bad. In fact, the EPA even puts it on its emerging virus list. So if something tomorrow comes out that makes me grow a second head, this is going to be something that you're going to use. So it's pretty amazing. It really is exciting for us, and I'm really I really feel this is going to be the future of where disinfecting is going to go in healthcare. And by the way, Derek, that's something I think that makes us very unique is that, we focus in healthcare. There's a lot of companies out there that healthcare is a market, but they supply universities, and we have one or two universities, but we have companies that are supplying thousands of school systems, universities, healthcare, manufacturing plants. We're focused in healthcare. We want to become the healthcare specialist of tomorrow. And because of our way we do our chemistry and the way we're nimble and small, it's an advantage. I always tell my customers, you don't want the big guy that you're one customer amongst millions. You want the guy like me who looks at you as my bread and butter. So we're going to innovate, we're going to change for your needs, and we're going to make chemistry not because the rest of the industry wants it, but because you want it a certain way. And so we do customize and we do create products that are unique for the customer. And HOCl, hypochlorous acid, I think is a really incredible way for us to partner with our customers to offer healthcare something very, very different.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The other thing I'd add on to sustainability more on the application of it is just seeing what our teams do with it. It really limits the amount of water and chemical you need to put down in that floor care program. Obviously, electricity, all those things that go along with it by multiples. And so it's definitely better on the environment in the lack of how much water, electricity, chemical, et cetera, it needs based off how you've built these
100%.
products.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's
And at the same time, if you're if you're creating an environment that has less dust because you're not burnishing, guess what? Your HVAC system is
yeah,
pulling in less dust. If your HVAC
yeah, great
system is
point.
pulling in less dust, it's burning less electricity. So, you can actually save millions of dollars by just reducing burnishing just a little bit. And you can, really make a change if every hospital now reduces their burnishing 10%, 20%. What does that translate in your energy savings?
Talk to me a little bit about your R&D process in terms of taking feedback from people who are putting this down, from your customers. How does that all come together in your organization?
Well, your last guy, Donnie Mitchell, that you had on the robotics, I worked with him early on.
Right,
He was actually very responsible for a lot of the innovation that we came up with because, when we started our business, we had a acronym called NASA. NASA stands for N is need, A is agree that there's a need, S is a solution, and A is agreement that there's a solution to what the need is. And that's how we sell. And that's how we run our
gotcha.
business. So I would go to you, Derek, and I did this with Donnie, and I'd say, okay, what's your challenge? What's your needs? And they would say, this is it. And I said, well, if we can solve this problem, where do we go from here? He says, well, we could do business. So um, I basically, did that with Donnie, with your company. And we developed a program specifically designed for the needs of your company. I do this with other customers, where I find out what their needs are. I go to the lab. We sit down at the lab, and it's not again developing a product.
Right.
It's developing a program. It's all about the program because a product itself doesn't solve anyone's problem, and even a program doesn't solve anyone's problems or challenges. It needs to be something where you have support behind that, and that's where it's a whole package. And so, even designing a package for my customers, what is it that you need? How can we do training? Where is it that your weak points are? How do we take on that challenge? That's done together with the customer, and so it's a really a joint process. It's not something where I come in with my suitcase, open up my suitcase, and show you samples and say pick one. And that's what makes us unique is that we're able to go and say I'm going to make a Derek's floor finish for his house. It's going to be different than anyone else's needs because his wife is not a rationalist. So so we need to create a special product for the
That's right.
non-rationalist crowd versus rationalist crowd, as an example. So it's really it's a fun process, and it's a lot more fun than going out there and selling chemistry and selling chemicals when I can sell something that is creative, something that we create for the need that's at the time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Looking ahead, floor care is rapidly changing, obviously, with autonomous robotics and things like that. But where do you see the future of floor care interacting with your product? And maybe what are some of the exciting advancements or trends do you anticipate that Madama and your other products are going to play in?
It's interesting because flooring is changing. There's no wax floors. A lot of the manufacturers that sell flooring are selling. I don't want to say a bill of goods, but I'd say they're selling
Yeah,
goods, right? Let's keep it
yeah.
at that. But
We'll be fair. We'll be
we'll be
fair here.
fair. Right, exactly. But there's all different kinds of flooring out there, and the customers are saying, well, we're going to lose the warranty if we don't wax this floor. And 100%, a lot of these floors are great to non-wax. Some of companies out there are selling the idea, well, if you don't wax this floor, we're going to save you time and money. But I've been walking around some of these floors 3 or 4 years in, and they're all getting destroyed. Some of these, even speaking to some of the manufacturers, they're telling me, oh no, that flooring was never designed to be installed in a high traffic area. But they have salespeople that don't necessarily follow the NASA model, and they sell what they feel they should sell, and they're gone, and 2 years later those floorings are failing. So our job gets much more complicated because not only do we need to figure out a way to maintain these no wax floors, but how to repair a lot of these no wax floors. So we're getting involved. For example, marmoleum, if you have pH above 9.5, the floor gets damaged, it starts to
Mm.
bleed. We figured out a way to fix it, very
Wow.
simply fix it. So it's something we share with our customers. I'm not going to tell you now on the computer with all my competition listening, but yeah, it's Kool-Aid mixed 2 to 5. Everyone out there. So, just kidding. That's only for my competition, but that is a thing that we're dealing with. I'm also, having a push and a fight with some of these manufacturers of flooring, and I'm saying, listen, the warranty is on the floor, not on the labor to install the floor. The floor may cost $10,000 and it's $100,000 to install, plus closing down the floor for 2 years until it's done, if they have the money to do it. Why not put something on that's not necessarily a coating, but something that's a barrier, something that can protect
Mm.
the floor and help protect the floor? And so
Right.
that's where I get involved sometimes, where there is a fight going on between me, the EVS team, and I wouldn't call it a fight, a discussion, and the client. And we sort of tell the client, here's your choice. We can leave the floor as is and wait till it gets damaged, and then we're going to have a harder time repairing it. Or we can do something proactive now, and you may lose your warranty, but you'll have a floor in 2 or 3 years from now that's not damaged.
Right.
So that's really the challenges, and also the part of the innovation. But the other thing is, I think the innovations are coming in on the HAIs and the HCAPs. I think that where we as a company are really focused in on is how do we lower HAIs with our HOCL system? And we call it an HAI prevention program. We don't call it a
Mm.
generator because it's a whole encompassing program to lower infections. In
Right.
hospitals in the Northeast where they had issues and challenges with Candida auris or C. diff, we've actually lowered their rates. We saved lives
Wow.
by instituting our program. And then also, we're very involved in increasing HCAPs, making the hospitality end of the industry. And we have some software programs that we've acquired and partnered with where we can actually help a hospital increase their HCAPs.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Switching gears here a little bit, one of the things that I've seen along the way is your bathroom restoration program and how amazing that is. So, if you want to talk a little bit about that, but more importantly, what's the most satisfying kind of before and after transformation you've seen using your products, especially Madama?
Using the bathroom after I've restored it.
Yeah,
So, so it's a double win for me.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, well, it's I think the most rewarding part of this business and as a Madama as a company is when we're able to help customers improve the appearance of the facility, have them have kudos from their customers, and customers meaning not the VP that hired them, but for the patients. When
Right.
the patients are happy and the families of the patients are coming back and saying, this is wonderful, the way the floors look, we're not being disturbed as much, the rates of infections are down. That to me is all what it's all about. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I take a paycheck home, but if I'm saving lives and making a difference in people's lives, I think that's something that at the end of the day is worth it all. As far as the bathroom system, I love it because it's evolving continuously. We keep on improving and updating it. There's a lot of companies out there that do updates of bathrooms and improvements of bathrooms, but they're permanent. So
Right.
if something goes south, you're now stuck with whatever they did on the bathroom. What's nice about our program is we can, restore your bathroom, make it look like new. But if you don't like it, it can always be reversed. And that is something that we do across the board with our products. It's not something permanent where now you own whatever you did. You
Right.
can still go back and fix it and take it off and remove it. And I think that's what makes us different when it comes to a lot of our chemistries. Plus, the most important part of it is that we do it with less time. So a company comes in and does your bathroom restoration, they charge you an arm and a leg to do so, and then they charge you
Yep.
an arm and a leg to maintain it. I can go into a hospital and say, hey, let me show you guys how to do it yourselves. You don't need a company to come in and do it. Let's show you how to maintain it, and uh, that's also part of it is where we're back with the customer, continuously educating them and working with them. So we're not just we're in, we do your bathroom and we're out. We're continuously there, with you and partnering with you.
Yeah, that's great. I've been distracted this whole podcast, Alex, and you know why? I can't get this movie out of my head in talking to you. It's a household favorite of my wife and I, which is called The Guilt Trip. I don't know if you've ever seen it with Seth Rogen and Barbara Streisand.
No,
Well,
no,
he's traveling the country with his fancy chemical he designed
right.
that's supposed to clean and kill everything. You can drink it, you can do all these things, and Barbara Streisand's his mom riding on this sales road trip with him. And you've got to see it now. But that's all I keep
That's it.
popping into
That's
my
gonna be
head. It's
tomorrow.
it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Well, look, everything you've talked about, I've learned a lot on this. I hope our listeners have. What parting comments would you leave with our audience here in terms of Medama itself, floor care products, anywhere you want to take it? But any parting comments, Alex?
If you saw Breaking Bad, it was about me and I lived. No, it's what I want to say is that, and I'm saying this to everyone who's watching this podcast, who's in our industry, what we do is really phenomenal. And what the problem and the challenge that we all have is we forget. We think that we're dealing with a floor, we think we're dealing with a bacteria virus, and we think that we're dealing with making our clients, whether it's our bosses or the VP of the hospital or the healthcare chain, happy. At the end of the day, we're involved in saving lives, and to have the opportunity to do this, each one of us, whether we're mopping the bathroom floor or whether we're in an office putting in scores or orders or placing orders for products, or a person who's just checking in to see that people are washing their hands properly. All this is part of saving lives, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful opportunity that all of us have to do this for a living and to really change the world through saving lives and keeping people healthy and getting them out of hospitals quicker than later.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. One of the things is we try to do is just have casual conversations. This has by far been my most fun. Other people that I've had on, please don't hear that comment. But
Uh-oh.
Alex, this has been a great time.
Definitely.
Tell last thing I have for you. Tell us something that would be interesting about you, not work related.
I'm germ phobic. No. I have 4 kids. I got one of my kids is fulfilling my dream. He's going to medical school here in New
Wow.
York, Einstein, one of my customers. And and I think I'm a philosopher. I like philosophy, and that's where the name Medama came from. Uh, and I look at life as we're here for a very short period of time. and I'm trying to make an impact in the small time that we're here, trying to see what we can do to make all of our lives happier and better. Other than that, happy that I have a wonderful wife, wonderful children. I'm happy that my father's around, that I can enjoy him and my mother. And I'm hoping to be around at least 240 years and then negotiate to 120. That's what I'm trying to figure out how to do.
I love it. I love it. Well, Alex, thanks for joining. For all those out there listening or watching, thank you for joining the Outsource Advantage. Please subscribe. We have a lineup of fantastic guests coming up. And Alex, thank you again for your time. Everybody, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Derek. Take care.